Einen wunderschönen guten Abend, liebe Freunde von Dr. Eurovision. Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe der ESC-Sprechstunde mit der Frag-Dr Eurovision Show. Und für alle die, die sich fragen, was ist das überhaupt eigentlich? Das ist der abendliche Stream aus Liverpool mit den neuesten Hintergrundinformationen rund um den Eurovision Song Contest. Und wenn euch dieser Kanal gefällt, dann abonniert ihn doch gerne und klickt auf das Glöcklein, damit ihr regelmäßig informiert werdet, was da eigentlich passiert. Ich begrüße alle, die das schon gemacht haben und hier zugeschaltet haben im Hintergrund, vielleicht auch ein bisschen lurken und einfach nur den Stream folgen. Ihr habt die Möglichkeit, euch aktiv an dieser Diskussion zu beteiligen. Ihr könnt eure Kommentare in die Kommentarspalten bei YouTube, Facebook und Twitch schreiben und mit mir interagieren. Das sieht dann so aus, wie das Babsi gerade eben gemacht hat, und das kann man gerade nicht sehen, weil das wieder ein anderer Stream ist. Ich weiß nicht, was das wieder für ein Update ist. Ich mache das mal kurz rückgängig und werde dann nochmal zurückgehen in den Stream, und dann werde ich das jetzt entsprechend ändern. Einen Augenblick, ich bin gleich bei euch. Ich finde es übrigens noch umso schöner, dass ihr jetzt dabei seid, weil ja aktuell noch der Turquoise Carpet, das Event läuft, und das bedeutet, dass ja noch einige der Stars auf dem roten Teppich, auf dem türkisen Teppich sind, so besser gesagt, und das heißt eben, dass wenn ihr da jetzt dabei seid, dann freut mich das natürlich umso mehr. So, jetzt haben wir das gleich geschafft. Ich muss hier nur noch die richtige Datei einbetten. Paste, okay. Und dann müsste das jetzt auch mit dem Chat funktionieren. Passt es? Sieht man euch? Hallo? So, gerade gestern hat es doch funktioniert. Guten Abend aus Harrogate. Ja, wunderbar, lieben Gruß zurück nach Harrogate an Felix, der auch am Dienstag bei unserer Eurovisions International Conference dabei sein wird. Ich grüße Björn, schön, dass du da bist. Johann, good evening. Babsi ist auch da. Herrlich, dass ihr dabei seid. Und ich wollte euch am Anfang ein bisschen was erzählen über den gestrigen Tag, denn meine Gäste sind ja hier schon in Hab-8-Stellung, aber wir bereiten noch das Skript vor für die beiden Konferenztage, und deswegen wollte ich euch noch erzählen, was es gestern Abend Schönes gegeben hat. Einen schönen guten Abend an Marco, schön, dass du zugeschaltet hast. Ich war nämlich mit Sofia und Isabel zusammen im Theater, und im Liverpool Royal Court läuft aktuell ein Stück namens A Song for Europe, also ein Tanga für Europa, Anlehnung an die britische Vorentscheidung A Song for Europe, und das ist wirklich ein ganz, ganz tolles Stück, in dem sie super lustig die Situation verarbeitet haben beim Song Contest in Liverpool, wo es dann eben auch so mit Seitenhieben darum geht, dass die Hauptfigur, der Vater der Hauptfigur, geht in Urlaub mit dem Geld, das er verdient, was er über Airbnb durch die Vermietung seiner kleinen Butze verdient. Und sie muss sich in der Zwischenzeit damit rumschlagen, die Asche ihrer verstorbenen Mutter, die ein großer Eurovision-Fan ist, auf der Eurovision-Bühne in Liverpool zu verteilen, weil das ihr letzter Wunsch ist. Das ist ein ganz, ganz großartiges, sehr lustiges Stück mit vielen Song-Contest-Songs, die live gesungen sind. Also auf jeden Fall sehenswert. Wenn ihr vor Ort in Liverpool sein solltet, dann dürft ihr euch das nicht entgehen lassen. Das ist wirklich ganz toll. Wir waren gestern noch am Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, und da gab es das Eurovision Fun Fest, wo junge Musikerinnen und Musiker Songs aus den letzten Eurovisionsjahrzehnten gesungen haben, live mit Orchester, mit Big Band. Das war ein ganz großes, großes, großes Spektakel, ein wunderbares Fest, hat unglaublich viel Spaß gemacht. Ich habe ein paar Sachen in meine Story gepostet, und ich glaube, wir haben da vielleicht sogar die eine oder andere künftige ESC-Teilnehmerin live erleben dürfen. Das war wirklich, wirklich großartig. Ich bin immer noch ganz begeistert, und dafür ein ganz herzliches Dankeschön an Martin Isherwood vom Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, dass er uns diese Teilnahme ermöglicht hat. Es waren auch alle möglichen Delegationen da, die Rumänen waren da, die Griechen da, San Marino, Tschechien, habe ich noch wen vergessen? Serbien, ja, Luke Black war auch da. Also war ein ganz großes, tolles Eurovision Event. Ich blicke mal kurz in den Chat, da fragt Björn, wie ist denn die Stimmung vor Ort? Bricht so langsam die Hysterie aus? Hysterie nicht, aber es ist insgesamt eine ganz tolle, super Atmosphäre in der Stadt. Alles ist geschmückt, alles sind bereit. Und jetzt dieses Turquoise Carpet Event, da ist ja irgendwie der Verkehr umgeleitet, die Busse fahren anders. Es ist wirklich ein sehr, sehr spezielles Feeling. Also man hat hier von der Königskrönung so gut wie gar nichts mitbekommen, weil die ganze Stadt im Eurovision-Fieber ist. Also eine tolle Atmosphäre und macht richtig, richtig viel Spaß. So, aber wir wollen heute Abend auch mit Gästen sprechen, denn es geht ja um die Eurovision International Conference, die am Dienstag stattfindet, die morgens zwischen 9:45 Uhr und 14 Uhr deutscher Zeit stattfinden wird. Ihr habt aber natürlich die Möglichkeit, das auf YouTube und Facebook anzuschauen, auf den einzelnen Kanälen. Und es gibt viele spannende Themen. So I would like to ask my guests to come over, and since we have a very limited space in this very nice Airbnb apartment, I just ask you to join me here on the floor, maybe. So
can you see us?
Yeah. So I'm welcoming Isabel Campêlo.
Yes, thank you, Irving. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure being here in this streaming. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in our Eurovision conference.
Of course. And I'm welcoming Sofia Vieira Lopes. Thank you for being with us.
Hello everyone. Hello, Dr. Eurovision. And thank you for inviting us to join on your live stream. And thank you all for being there. And of course, we are looking forward to meet you in the Eurovision conference, live or online.
Yeah, so we see I can switch to the chat. So if you have questions, you can always put your questions in the commentary sections of Facebook and YouTube. Sandra's saying hello. Babsi is also saying hello. So people know each other here, and Felix is looking forward to his Science Slam presentation. So, what is this Eurovision conference about? Maybe, Sofia, you can tell us a little bit more about it.
So, first of all, it's the best conference you can attend on your life. I can assure you. No, I'm joking, of course, but we think that we are always working to have a special conference in order that can be interesting for everyone. If you are an academic, if you are just a person interested in Eurovision, or if you are a non-fan of Eurovision. So we are working to have entertaining as well as informing conference since 2018 in Lisbon, that we are organizing the conference in order that professionals of media, musicians, fans, journalists, and of course academics, because we are talking about science, join us, talk about their research, about their work, and share knowledge with everyone. This is our aim from the very beginning, is to work in order that everyone can share the knowledge on the Eurovision Song Contest, and making scientific knowledge more affordable. Maybe it's not the proper word, but maybe more interesting for general audience.
Yeah, because we discovered that there are lots of Eurovision scholars, but the fans, they always have a little bit, they're fearing to enter this kind of conferences, and we wanted to make something for everyone, party for everybody, in fact. So, and with these beautiful people here, we are putting up something that will be very interesting also for you. We're looking forward to having you here. Isabel, you are not only a Eurovision scholar, you have had your own Eurovision experience, isn't it?
That's true. It's been a long time, but I still remember it very clearly, and I can tell you that it was a blast. I mean, it was a very entertaining week, and that's the least I can say. Because at the time, so let me remind me, maybe Irving knows better the date than I do.
1985.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Irving. Dr. Eurovision, everyone. So I was with Adelaide Ferreira in Gothenburg, a beautiful city, and it was really, I think it was a great Eurovision. It was very well organized, as it's usual in Northern European countries. And I remember the lady who presented it, and I think she had a very well-known performance, because at a certain point her dress falls and she becomes dressless, but all very classy and very funny. So
I just wanted to wake you up a little.
yes, of course, of course.
So you feel free to ask your questions about Isabel's participation in Eurovision or her other activities, because she's a Eurovision researcher. She did her PhD thesis on recording studios in Lisbon. So this is also a very, very interesting topic. And so Felix is also remembering the underwear. I'm just I think underwear is always something to remember.
Of course.
So what did you, because you were in Eurovision, did you plan to become a Eurovision scholar?
Not at all, because well, I come from a generation like most of you. That considered the Eurovision Song Contest as a family event. It still is, I think, but it was mainly a family event, so everybody would join around the TV and we would watch the Eurovision. Then, well, as we all know, the Eurovision Song Contest has suffered many transformations, and there was a point when I no longer felt a lot of interest about the Eurovision Song Contest. You know, like many people, you know, the songs and the organization and everything seemed pretty, well, uninteresting for me at that period. But then things began to change somehow. And I also think that, well, personally, I think that Portugal's victory in 2017, right? I think it changed a little bit the music pace of the Eurovision, because Salvador Sobral's song had nothing to do with, well, I would say the model of the songs that were being sung and were actually winning the Eurovision, until then, or in the last years, let's put it this way. So, and then Sofia invited me for the first Eurovision's conference, and I was there as an invited guest to speak about my experience and about women in the Eurovision, etc. And then I started to realize that the Eurovision Song Contest is much more than a Eurovision Song Contest. It is, in fact, a multidisciplinary event with a lot of different perspectives to be analyzed. So I became interested in the Eurovision as well, a multidisciplinary phenomenon, a mega event, and I asked Sofia and Irving to join the group, and here am I.
And we're happy that you are here with us.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you too.
So we have a question that I think Sofia could reply best to. Adam is asking, was it just a coincidence that Portugal hasn't participated just when Sweden hosted in 2013 and 2016? Do the Portuguese have something against the Swedes?
No, at all. In fact, it's funny that in 2013, when we met each other in Malmo, in fact, and when I was starting my research, was the exact year that Portugal didn't participate in the Eurovision. So I was a little bit sad. So I was starting, and then Portugal didn't participate. But this question of being in Sweden, in fact, is a coincidence. It's nothing against Sweden or Swedish organization. But I can explain you a little bit why Portugal didn't participate in these two editions of the Eurovision. The first one, 2013, the reason was economical reasons. The Portuguese national broadcaster had some issues on the finance question, because we were passing a crisis period and invest as usual. Yeah, as usual. And in fact, they were investing in other events, like sports events, so they didn't have a budget to participate in 2013. For the other edition, 2016, it's another question, in fact more interesting than just economical reasons. So after Portugal participated in Vienna in 2015, they decided to do a big change on the contest, on the Portuguese contest, Festival da Canção, in order to transform the TV format in order to have better results. So they decided to stop for a year, to have this big stop, and to rethink on format, on the strategies, on the communication strategies, trying to, we can say now, rebrand the Festival da Canção. So this stop, and many people was complaining about it, of course, was in fact a strategy that resulted very well, because Festival da Canção come back in 2017, Portuguese delegation and Portuguese singer, of course, participated in Kiev in 2017, and we won for the first time ever. So the strategy of stopping for a year, rethink on the format, rethink on the communication strategy, and the link between the public broadcaster and the artist and music industry was a strategy, I think, very well done, and that results in our best score ever. So yeah.
So, Adam says muito obrigado, and we say hello to Korjun. Thank you for being. Thank you for being in our conference with your wonderful piano medley.
Again.
So it has become a wonderful tradition to have you with us, and we are looking forward to wonderful music from this very, very talented pianist. Going back to the chat, Yannick is asking or saying he loves music that Portugal sends the last few years. It feels like the Portuguese artists always put their soul into the songs and performance more than many other countries. So I'm asking this to Isabel because she's a voice coach in The Voice Portugal. So do you feel that the Portuguese artists put more soul into their performances than others?
Well, I mean, I think it's a very big generalization, I would say, but I understand the question of our friend. It depends on the artist, obviously, but I think people know that Portuguese people are melancholic, and they are Southern Mediterranean, so Southern Mediterranean people have, I would say, more our hearts close to our mouth. So I'm not surprised that people understand our music in those terms. For us Portuguese, we would say, well, it depends on the artist and this and that. But I can understand that for a non-Portuguese person listening to Portuguese music, for instance, Salvador Sobral, or I don't know, even Mimicat, or other artists that have been like Maru with Saudade last year. I think it's quite reasonable that people think that we all sing with more emotion, but I think it's an overstatement maybe, because we have other artists from other countries who also sing with their hearts. So thank you anyway for your remark, because it's linked to our personality, I would say, as Southern European people, and with Fado, maybe you know Fado. That's a very emotional way of singing. So maybe that influence is part of the way that Portuguese singers interpret. I don't know. We don't see it that way. At least I don't see it that way. I would say some artists are more emotional singing than others, but I can understand how other people who are non-Portuguese people understand our singing mode, let's put it this way, in that sense. So that's what I have to say about that.
Can I add something?
Oh, of course.
Sorry. I think since we are also academics, I can add this detail. So I think that could be a difference between other countries, because the Portuguese national broadcaster doesn't buy a song to an artist, or doesn't ask for a certain type of songs, or kind of industrial songs, commercial.
Yeah.
So when they invite people to participate in the Portuguese selection, they ask them to do what they usually do, the music that they perform in the everyday activity. So it's very different to ask for someone to compose a song on purpose for the Eurovision. So I think it is one strategy that even those doesn't know about the process can understand when they are listening the songs. So of course the composers maybe think on a certain type of music for the competition, but if you analyze the songs, many of them compose a song according to their personal style. So for me it is a very important issue of this very different way of competing on Eurovision. So
and may I say something else? By the way, that's, you know, that Salvador Sobral's song is a mirror of what Sofia has just said, because, well, I remember listening to Salvador Sobral's song, which in fact is from Luísa Sobral, his sister, and thinking, this is a beautiful song, but it will never win either I thought it would never win the natural selection. It did. And then when it went to the Eurovision, I thought it will never win the Eurovision. I mean, it's a beautiful song, but it has no chance. And look what happened. So this, what Sofia just said, you know, this change of tone, like artists do what they do, and they are not worried about composing, at least some of them, are not worried about composing a song for Eurovision. It had its fruits, its good results. So
Definitely. So, bom dia to Nessie, Luna, and Stella. We are happy that you're there. So, they have a special relationship to Portugal. Maybe they're going to tell in the commentaries. And Yannick is saying, I think that's a good point. Songs are often bought in from Swedish songwriters, for example. So, Portugal is not doing this anymore.
Exactly.
So, we have to add that. But something that is, I think, we were talking about the musicians that put their heart into the performances, but the Portuguese put the word heart into their songs very often. What is this about the word coração in every Eurovision entry?
I don't know. It's coração, it's saudade, it's mar, and all these words that maybe, because we have a lot of words finished with ão, so they can be together, and in the song, how to say, it's rimar, I don't know the word. They rhyme, so you put coração, you can put pão, cão, barracão, whatever.
Bacalhau.
that would be bacalhau.
Okay.
So, but I don't know. Sorry, I don't agree in this special way of being from somewhere. So I think it's just how to say, a practical way of writing.
Yeah, I mean, If I can add something, certain words are more musical than others, I would say, and they, as Sofia was saying, they fit better, and they have more rhyming possibilities, I would say. So probably that explains it better than being like a concept of having the heart inside each and every Eurovision song.
Okay, so Felix is asking, what is your impression after Mimikat's rehearsals, and how nervous are you going to be on Tuesday?
If we can think, Felix, it's a good question. I think these rehearsals, it's always like that, because delegations are planning the performances for so long. In fact, in the Portuguese performance, they are planning the performance for Eurovision since since March. So of course, when they come to a huge Eurovision stage, it's very different. Even with these new technologies that you can prepare all on your computer first, when you go there and you see the hugeness of the Eurovision stage, you will realize that maybe you have to change some moves or something. And in fact, Mimi is singing alone with four dancers, so they have to rearrange certain aspects of the performance in order to occupy more the stage, to use more the space on the stage. So we are always, of course, sending our good energies to Mimi Cat in order Mimi pass to the final. Of course, maybe we are a little bit nervous on Mimi, but Mimi will do it well. So
Yeah, we're thinking positively. What I'm curious about is, was it the same pressure back in '85? You had prepared something and then you found out in Gothenburg it wouldn't work?
I don't recall it that way at all. First of all, we rehearsed with an orchestra, so I think that the focus was more on the music side rather than the performance side, definitely, because we were worried about how the song would sound with the musicians and everything, and how the interpreter, in this case Adelaide, would how would she feel sound-wise, you know, whether she would listen to herself, whether we, as backing vocalists, I was with two other colleagues making the backing vocals, whether we would listen to ourselves properly and with quality. So everything was pretty much around the music, and not at all, at least in the Portuguese song that I represented with Adelaide as the lead singer. At least not at all with that, because she is a very well emotional interpreter. She has always been, and I think she's one of those singers that fills the stage with her interpretation and her voice. She sang very well. So not at all about the performance. There were no dances, no fireworks, nothing. There was a great singer with a very beautiful dress. We were there also with very beautiful dresses, and our main concern was the song, how to perform properly that song, those words. So as you can see, it has nothing to do with the way that the Eurovision is, well, not nothing, but because, like Salvador, I mean, he stressed that idea of music first, but it's his point of view, you see, and back then it was like that. Nowadays we know that the Eurovision is so much more than singing a song, as I said before, but back in 1985, as I recall it, at least with the Portuguese delegations, it was around the music and not so much around the rest.
So we are all keeping our fingers crossed for Mimicat. And Nessie, Luna, and Stella are looking forward to see Portugal in the grand final, because they have because Nessie's mother is from Grândola.
Oh, I love Grândola. I worked there for a year, so yeah, I love Grândola and Grândola food.
Yeah, this is a very important song, by the way, because it is the second song that was played for the Carnation Revolution. It's not only O depois do Deus, but this is another story that we will talk about another day. Greetings from Bastian, from vocal coach to vocal coach, because Bastian used to be the assistant vocal coach for Azerbaijan in Israel. So when was our second Eurovision conference. And we have a question from Sandra, who wants to know whether your academic research is enough, let's say, if your academic colleagues are really loving what you do. Is it appreciated in the way it should be?
Oh, Sandra, it was Sandra, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Sandra, very nice question. So let me tell you this personal story. When I start my research on the Portuguese national selection and, of course, on the Eurovision Song Contest, because you can't do just on national selections, not thinking on the Eurovision, I start with this doubt that if anyone in the world are doing research on these kind of things, because I didn't know a single researcher. So I start doing my research on the computer, and of course I found Irving's work and another scholars, and I was very happy to understand that in Europe you find a lots of researchers doing research on Eurovision. But in Portugal, when I start, I had a professor that laughed on me when I explain what I'm planning to do. And he asks, really, Eurovision? So you can see on this little story that the research on Eurovision in Portugal was regarded like that 10 years ago. So I was searching for researchers in 2013, and I found a conference on Eurovision. So was there, I met Irving. So and I realized that in Europe, the research on Eurovision was regarded a little bit different from Portugal. And I'm very happy to say that during these 10 years, you see more interest on the research on Eurovision. Many young scholars starting their research on Eurovision, as well as the established academics giving value to the research. Because I'm a musicologist, and for traditional musicologists, this kind of TV shows of this popular culture were not regarded as available subjects of research. So I'm very happy that in 10 years it is changing. I don't know if it is a completely shift, because I think it's not, but we can see different researchers from very different areas doing their research as a main research or a side research on this subject. So I'm very happy, and we are very happy to assemble some of them in our conference and in our conferences during these last 6 years. So I think it's now it's good to see this.
Yeah, and you're all with your interaction, with your participation in our conferences, you are supporting our work. When you are clicking on the stream, when you are asking your questions, then you show your interest in our work, and so we can go on doing what we do and investigate many interesting questions that you might have asked yourself for a long time, but you don't have the time, or you don't have the specific background for this branch to do your own investigations. So ask us, ask the Eurovision scholars to do it for you.
Yes.
So what are you actually doing, what research are you actually doing at the moment, Isabel?
Well, at the moment, I am trying to develop certain aspects of television entertainment shows, because as I think Irving said before, I have been a vocal coach in The Voice Portugal for since the beginning, and it's a very, very interesting TV entertainment show, particularly seen from both sides, from someone as a viewer and as someone who is on the background. So I'm trying to develop certain aspects of the show, which are really, for me, very interesting, but are not very easy to research because you cannot really reveal much of what is of what goes on behind the curtains. And I mean, I can go on with the research that I want, not exactly in the way that I wanted, because I've spoken with people responsible for the show in Portugal. They explained to me exactly why not. But anyway, I'm still on it, and also I'm always trying to find points that I can develop. Well, in the Eurovision Song Contest as well. I have one that I want to develop, which I find it very interesting, but I won't say anything for the moment. Sofia and I also have one which we are planning of developing, which has to do with performance and TV. There's so many interesting things to develop around these televisionized events, but unfortunately it's not as easy as that to dive into these subjects, because many things cannot be revealed. I had more or less the same issue with recording studios, but since I've been a recording professional for many decades, it was, well, the entrance, the coming into the terrain, into the field, was not as difficult as if I wasn't. And because I was almost considered like somebody from the house, you know. But still, recording studios, as I know them and as I worked in the ones that I worked, were like closed boxes, you know, where musicians went and did some sort of alchemy to make their records, which was beautiful and magical in a way. Industry changed a lot, and today we have studios in our apartments, in our rooms if we want. It's not as interesting, I would say. It has other advantages. But to make a long story short, that's what I'm trying to do now as a research, to go into the places where I go the most, which is the behind the curtains of these mega events, and what can we develop and reveal to diversified audiences, not just academic audiences, everybody, because maybe a lot of people feel interested in knowing how things work behind the curtains, at least some part of the Eurovision Song Contest or some part of The Voice, you know, the parts that you can actually disclose. It's not easy, but I think it's feasible, so let's see.
And it's exciting to absolutely. So, as is the question from Jana. Hello, thank you that you're with us. Of course, this is the right question. There are no wrong questions for the Eurovision team. Is Portugal trying to get former participants to take part in the Festival da Canção again, like Claudio Pascual did this year? Is this part of the concept, or is it more that they always want to have new talents?
Okay, I think it's not a strategy in these close terms, but it's a kind of natural thing, because in Portuguese music industry in these last years, you see many performers that start a career as songwriters too. So this is why, in fact, it's the case of Claudia. Claudia participated in 2018 as a performer of Is Our song, because Claudia started as a performer, and then Claudia developed a career as a songwriter. So then they asked to Claudia, because Claudia is now in the very healthy stage of her career, and Claudia's songs pass on radio. So they asked to Claudia to participate this year as a songwriter. So I think it is not a strategy of the national broadcaster, but this is the looking at the music industry, looking at the dynamics of the music industry, and understanding these shifts. It's not a shift, completely shift on the career, but is acquiring different roles as a singer, singer-songwriter, or just a songwriter that can invite other singers to sing on the Festival da Canção. So I think it is a natural path that Portuguese broadcaster as doing. So yeah.
Yeah, we
Can
also.
I-
I would just wanted to because the idea is this is why also Salvador Sobral, after he won with the song from his sister, then he entered the song that he wrote for another Oh, he discovered
No.
he discovered someone. This
He
wasn't it.
invited, the rule is Salvador, as a former winner, could invite a songwriter to participate. So Janeiro is a friend of Salvador, and they know each other for a long. So Salvador invites Janeiro as a songwriter, and Janeiro is also a singer. So not Salvador writing a song for other singers.
Well, we were looking forward to this. I would happen. Yeah, but
I'd just like to add that Claudia Pascual was a participant of The Voice, and as such, she was invited to perform Isaura. I mean, I don't know whether it was because of that, but it's not. She is not the only case of former The Voice participants who become interpreters of songs for the Portuguese national selection. So this is also a very interesting case of how The Voice can also be a platform to launch future interpreters who somehow end up in the national selection, who end up being invited by composers to participate in the national selections and eventually the Eurovision, as happened to Claudia. Then she developed her career as a composer, and as Sofia said, she's in a very good stage now. So it was just that.
yeah, so we are answering, of course, in detail because we want you to know all the crispy little details of Eurovision. And Wojciech is greeting with Beba. We were also watching the turquoise carpet event, and we saw Blanca with her gorgeous green dress. So I think she's doing a good promotion. So she knows how to do it in the Eurovision Song Contest bubble and with her Instagram account. So it's not only a duck face anymore, it's much more that is required. Bastian's writing, gotta go. So good to hear you. Thanks for your work. Would love to be back sometime. We are looking forward to have you back sometime in Eurovision and maybe also as a guest speaker in Eurovisions. So you're always welcome to get in touch with us. Jana, would you say The Voice is the biggest platform for newcomers in Portugal?
Well, actually, at present, I think it's a big platform for future singers, I would say, and at least to be able to show what you are able to do, because you don't have that many platforms. I mean, you do have the social media, obviously, but I think that it's a good platform to continue previous work, for instance, that you began in a social media. I'm thinking of a specific participant of last year's edition who was very well known, apparently. I mean, I don't know because I don't go to TikTok, so I had never heard him before, but he was a great singer and composer and also interpreter, and he managed to to broaden his audience. In fact, so he had the audience of TikTok and I believe Instagram, mostly. But then by going to national television to a program that has a very high audience rate, I think he broadened his audience exponentially. And I think that he was very well positioned to get a record label contract. So, yes, the answer I think is yes. I think it's not enough, obviously, but if you already have something going on, I think that The Voice can help you to at least become more well known.
Can I add a detail on to link to the Portuguese national selection? One case, I think very interesting case, it's Bárbara Tinoco.
Exactly.
Because Bárbara Tinoco started as a participant in the Voice Portugal, and then Bárbara was invited to as a songwriter to the Festival da Canção 2020, and she was the singer of Tiago Nacarato song with Tiago Nacarato. And this year, Bárbara, and from then, Bárbara developed a career. Bárbara, it's a very well-known singer and songwriter in Portugal. So now, for this year, Festival da Canção, RTP invited Bárbara Tinoco as a songwriter, and Bárbara Tinoco was the singer of her own song. So, and now Bárbara Tinoco is it's a juror, how we say a jury, jurada, and
in the jury of the Voice Kids.
Jury of the Voice Kids, Portugal. So you see this, of course, Portugal, it's a not so big country, because we have to emphasize that, and we have not a small music industry, and of course it's all linked. But Bárbara Tinoco, I think it's a good example of someone that starts in the Voice Portugal, and then went to Festival da Canção just as a singer, and then she came in the second place, and then she came again to the Festival da Canção as a songwriter and was very good classified. So
there's a very important detail. When she participated in The Voice as a singer, she didn't turn any chair, okay? So she wasn't even a participant of The Voice. She went there, and she didn't go anywhere else apart from the blinds, but she didn't turn any chair. And there was one of the juries who liked her voice and liked she sang Jolene, and they liked her. I don't understand why they didn't turn. Anyway, nobody turned, and then they asked her to sing an original song, and then she sang an original song, which was her first big hit. So you see, this is a very interesting example of how a person who went to The Voice and did not turn any chair became one of the most well-known singer-songwriters at present in Portugal.
Yeah, do you see, there are so many interesting background stories, so you should not miss on the Eurovision's international miss out on the Eurovision's International Conference on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I think this will be as interesting as the question if Beba will win the second semifinal. Wojciech, I keep my fingers crossed. I love the song. I think it's I don't like the term guilty pleasure, because no pleasure is guilty, but I think she deserves it, especially after the big shitstorm she had to live after the Polish national final. So all of you, you're welcome to the Eurovision's International Conference. So on Tuesday and Wednesday at 9:45 Central European Time and 8:45 in UK and Portugal and Iceland. So if you are watching us from there, you are welcome to attend. What can people expect on the two conference days?
Oh, it's a hard question, Irving. No, you will expect a very animated conference. We don't like boring conferences and boring talks, because we are not boring people. So we will preparing a nice conference with wonderful talks and very different point of views. I think the most interesting thing, it's we are talking about Eurovision, but from very, very different point of views. So, and we will have musical interludes on also recorded by Korjun, as well as live music moments. So, yeah.
Young musicians from Hope University and from LIPA, so Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts. So thank you in advance to these wonderful musicians. We will have, of course, a science slam like every year, so you are invited to watch the presentations on our YouTube channel, so you can still also vote for the 8 candidates who are had submitted their research to the Eurovision's Science Slam. Check them out on our YouTube channel, and you can expect lots of technical problems like always, but we will master them and we will make a very entertaining show for you all.
Yes, please join us.
So thank you very much for being with us tonight. We wish you a wonderful evening, and if you like this stream, so just click on the button to follow our channel to be informed regularly about what's going on. There is already the stream is set up, so you can maybe click also on YouTube and that you get informed when we start with the conference. Yeah. So thank you, Isabel, for being with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, a big pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Sofia.
Thank you, Dr. Eurovision.
Yes, Dr. Eurovision.
And thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.